Hi Sunshine Fam. Today's video is going to be raw emotion from me. And I'm going to presume that a lot of you, if not all of you, feel the same way I do about recent events, especially here in the Twin Cities and around this country. ICE. Now, I'm not talking about the stuff that you put in drinks. I'm not talking about the stuff that's outside on the ground right now here in Minnesota and the northern states. I'm talking about the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. Just hearing that word makes our blood boil, doesn't it? Yeah. Usually, my videos are more upbeat, more happy things to talk about. And I try to avoid talking about these kinds of things because I don't want to portray to you that I'm a negative person. But you know what? I am only human, as we all are. And this really, really angers me. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about about this point. So I have a lot to talk about here. And let's start with a guy named Jonathan. What is his name? Jonathan something. What the heck is his name? Jonathan Ross. Yeah, we know who he is, right? And if you don't, I'm going to tell you about him. I'm going to tell you about him as a person first. Not to try to humanize him, but we have to understand, we all make mistakes, right? And no, I'm not siding with him. Trust me, I am not. With the actions that happened this past Wednesday, the 7th of January, 2026. But he, like all of us, is a human being. First and foremost, that's what we all are. We should not be identified by our political affiliation, by our race, by our gender. We should be identified as human beings. I am no different and no better or worse than anybody from Mexico, Venezuela, Russia, Greenland, Asia, any country in Asia. I'm just a person, just like you are. So let's talk about Jonathan Ross, shall we? And I am taking this information, as you know that I do my research, I am taking this information from NBC News. Now I understand that the news can be biased and we can't always believe everything we read or hear, especially in the early stages, because stories often change. But before being an officer of ICE, and before he encountered a woman named Renee Nicole Good, who I'll get to her in a minute, on a snowy Minneapolis street, fatally shooting her as she tried to drive away during a confrontation, he spent years working for the government and serving in the military. So in that respect, Jonathan Ross, if you're watching this, I thank you for your service in the military, not for your actions on Wednesday. Now give me just a minute till I get to the spot that I really want to talk about. I'm just going to take bits and pieces out of this article here. Videos contradict Trump's claim that Renee viciously ran over Jonathan, showing that Renee's car didn't knock him down and that his legs were to the side of the SUV as it moved by him while he fired. Where is the rest of this story? Oh, here we go. Okay. On Friday, which as of today was yesterday, on a quiet suburban cul-de-sac full of multi-level homes about 30 miles from the scene of the shooting in South Minneapolis, in a neighborhood called Chaska, few neighbors were out bicycling and walking their dogs. Hockey sticks lay on porches and "Let It Snow" signs decorated doorways. Some onlookers from other neighborhoods had come to observe the scene outside Jonathan Ross's house, where he lives with his wife and children, so he's married and is a father. Someone had ordered pizza to the home, and a delivery driver spent some time ringing the doorbell before returning to his car, taking the pies with him. Neighbors talked amongst themselves about getting away for the weekend. Probably a smart idea. One female neighbor, who asked that she not be identified by name for fear of retribution, said she saw people packing boxes at Ross's home Friday morning. What I did see were 3 trucks and people moving boxes out of there. I texted one of my friends right away. She said, they were really hustling when I was down there. Asked who was moving the boxes, she said, no idea. Multiple neighbors told NBC News that during the presidential election, a pro-Trump and at least one "Don't Tread on Me" Gadsden sign had been on display. There were no political signs outside the house on Friday, and Ross's political affiliation is unknown. That seems kind of funny, doesn't it? Seeing how he had a pro-Trump sign in his yard. A neighbor who also asked not to be identified by name, said everyone in the neighborhood is freaking out. She said the pro-Trump signage at Ross's home was noticeable because part of the neighborhood is not generally supportive of Trump, so the houses stick out if they are. So far, Ross has made no public statements about the shooting. NBC News has made numerous attempts to reach him with no response. I'm not even going to apologize for my language here. Jonathan Ross, you're a chicken shit. Own up to what you did. None of the neighbors interviewed were aware that Ross even worked for ICE, but one suspected he had some kind of involvement with the military because they saw him wearing fatigue pants. Ross had been deployed to Iraq as a member of the Indiana National Guard from November of 2004 to November of 2005. Specialist Ross of the 13th Signal Battalion earned the Army Commendation Medal, the Army Good Conduct Medal, the Global War on Terrorism Medal, and the Iraq Campaign Medal, among others, according to the Guard. During his time in Iraq, Ross was a machine gunner on a combat logistical patrol team, court documents show. After he returned home, Ross joined the U.S. Border Patrol in 2007 in El Paso, Texas, and worked for the agency until 2015. As a field intelligence agent who gathered and analyzed information on drug cartels and human traffickers. This year, Ross joined ICE as a deportation officer based in Minnesota, whose job, he testified in a case recently, was to identify and arrest higher value targets. Ross testified that he was also a member of the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force, as well as a firearms instructor and field intelligence officer. Ross has said some of his work involves investigating organized crime and working on national security cases. Now let's discuss information regarding Renee. I don't have any information pulled up on my phone at the minute. But what we know about her is that she was married, had a wife, had a 6-year-old child, so she was a mother, and she had just dropped her child off at school. Let's see, I think I did put information in here. Actually, I think it's on my Facebook page. Sorry, I'm trying to save on time here, so I'm trying to go through this rather quickly. Let me read to you what I posted on my Facebook page. Not my Chloe page, but my other page. Quote, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE agents, are not permitted to use deadly force on protesters solely for protesting or attempting to flee. Deadly force is only authorized under U.S. law and Department of Homeland Security DHS policy when an officer has a responsible belief that a person poses an imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury to the officer or another person. Let me respond to this. As to what happened in Minneapolis the other day, I presume most everyone has seen the videos of that incident. From what I've seen and heard, Renee had her car blocking the street, preventing those agents from leaving. They told her to move her car, which she was doing. I get it. Those agents are people too, with families and friends who care about them. However, if they wanted her to leave, why did they get out, try to drag her out of the vehicle, and stand in front of her vehicle if they wanted her to leave? It's clear to 99.9% of us, of the world, that that's exactly what she was trying to do. Let's also point out that she was an American. She was born in Colorado, went to college in Virginia, and moved to the Twin Cities from Missouri. In looking back at the video, those agents weren't attempting to free their vehicle due to adverse conditions. In fact, the agent responsible for shooting Renee had his gun out prior to her moving forward. Go back and watch the videos several times and look. The roads were icy, so how could she speed towards the agent in an attempt to hit him? In fact, her wheels were facing away from him. He's here, she's going this way. And there's plenty of room for her to avoid hitting him. What angers me the most is the response from DC. There's no action to make this agent take responsibility for his actions. In fact, they're sending an additional 100 agents to the Twin Cities because of this. I'm with Mayor Frey. Get the F out of our city. There have been 14 incidents where ICE agents have used their guns, 4 which ended in death. I'll get to that in a minute. You call this justice? I assure you that had the police responded this way, they would have been at least investigated and taken off the job. I guess these agents are above the law. Look at the Kim Potter incident. Nearly 6 years ago, George Floyd died over a counterfeit $20 bill. We tend to forget that. We just look at the death of it. We don't think about why that happened. All 4 officers were fired, prosecuted, and sent to jail. They were fired within a couple of days of the incident. This guy doesn't sound like he'll even get a slap on the wrist. Aside from George, there was Philando Castile and Justine Demond. Those people were also from Minneapolis, shot and killed by police. But those cops were also pulled off the job after going to court. My point? This is not what the Twin Cities wants to be known for. The majority of us fall under the Minnesota nice category. We don't deserve this. I can actually hear John applauding me right now. Thank you, John. So now let's get to some other interesting facts. People that were killed in incidents involving U.S. ICE people include both individuals in the community during enforcement operations and detainees who died in custody, as well as ICE officers who died in the line of duty. Individuals killed in enforcement operations. In recent months of 2025 and early 2026, there have been several high-profile incidents where individuals were fatally shot by ICE or Border Patrol agents during enforcement actions or traffic stops. Renee Nicole Good, 37, U.S. citizen, was shot and killed by an ICE agent in Minneapolis in January 2026. The incident has sparked national controversy, with federal officials claiming the agent acted in self-defense, and local officials disputing that account based on video evidence. Normally, I'm against people videotaping other people being hurt, but in this instance, I think it was a good idea. And I know a lot of focus right now is on Renee because she's the most recent one, but let's think of all these other people that don't have a name. Silverio Villegas Gonzalez, a father and cook from Mexico, was killed in September 2025 in a Chicago suburb while reportedly trying to flee from officers in his vehicle. Keith Porter, 43, was fatally shot by an off-duty ICE agent in Los Angeles on New Year's Eve, 2025. Authorities and Porter's family have provided conflicting accounts of this incident. Now, I don't know quite how to pronounce this name. I'll spell the first name, Josue Castro Rivera, 25, from Honduras, was killed in October 2025 when he ran into traffic on an interstate while attempting to flee from ICE agents in Norfolk, Virginia, who had pulled over his vehicle. That is very sad. A farm worker died in a 30-foot fall during an ICE raid in California in 2025. Others, such as Norlin Guzman Fuentes and Miguel Angel Garcia Medina, both from Mexico, were killed in September 2025 when a gunman opened fire at the ICE field office in Dallas, where they were being held as detainees. Innocent bystanders. Detainees who died in custody. A significant number of individuals have died while in ICE detention facilities due to various causes, including illness, medical negligence, and suicide. An American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, report found that 95% of deaths in ICE facilities between 2017 and 2021 could have been prevented with appropriate medical care. The American Immigrant Lawyers Association tracks and publishes information on detainee deaths, providing names, circumstances, and locations, such as Maxim Chernyak, 44, Ukrainian citizen, died of an apparent stroke in Miami in February 2025. This is an Asian name, so I'm going to spell the first name Nhon, and I'm going to guess at the middle name Ngoc, Gok Nguyen, which actually is spelled Nguyen. 55, from Vietnam, a legal resident, died of acute pneumonia in April 2025 after his family was unable to afford the required acute care following his detention. Abelardo Avellaneda Delgado, 68, from Mexico, a father and grandfather, died in a transport van in May 2025 due to complications from highly elevated blood pressure. His family is still awaiting answers. So, something that I had read that I don't have readily available and maybe some of you know this, I know I didn't until I looked it up. This ICE group of people actually are not a recent development. They actually started in 2020 or 2005 after 9/11. And it was a group that the DHS, who was formed also after 2001, after 9/11, used to help get rid of illegal people that are here because of the actions of 9/11. Bet you didn't know that, did you? Maybe you did, I don't know. I know I didn't. But it isn't until recently that they have become front page news, like within the past year or so. Ever since a certain somebody, Carpathia, has put them on our city streets. Now, something else I found interesting. I think it might be in this article. Federal immigration agents have been involved in a sharp rise in shootings in recent months, coinciding with the Trump administration's expanded immigration enforcement efforts. Under Trump's crackdown, immigration officers have been connected to 16 shootings, according to data compiled by The Trace, a nonprofit newsroom focused on gun violence in the U.S. This comes from The Guardian. And this article was published yesterday, February 9th, or January 9th. The newsroom relied on gun violence archive data and media reports to document incidents in which federal agents either shot someone or held individuals at gunpoint during immigration enforcement operations carried out under Donald Trump's crackdown. As of January 9th, it identified 29 incidents overall, including the 16 shootings. Since July, when the first shooting occurred under the administration, immigration agents have killed 4 people and injured 7 more. The figures probably underestimate the true number of incidents, since shootings involving immigration agents are not consistently made public, The Trace cautioned. Now, this one just happened since Wednesday. U.S. federal agents shot 2 people outside a hospital in Portland just a day after the fatal ICE shooting in Minneapolis, so that would have been on Thursday. The Portland Police Bureau said in a statement on Thursday that 2 people were in the hospital after a shooting involved federal agents, adding that their condition was not known. Police sources told the Oregonian one of the people was shot in the leg and the other in the chest. That's not good. I mean, this should infuriate everybody. So some things that I have posted, interesting. Some things that I've posted since then, including one this morning when I was looking up information about this group of people. If you're concerned about an ICE encounter, remember your rights. You can ask if you are free to leave, and you don't have to answer questions or show documents without a warrant, as explained in resources from institutions like George Washington University. Keep that in mind, folks. So let me tell you about another rant that I did last night. I want you all to know I live far enough away from downtown Minneapolis where I feel safe in my city, for now. Does what's happening make me emotional? Absolutely. You can see it. I'm furious that the more than 2,000 people brought here feel that bullying and violence is acceptable. I invite the person responsible for sending these people here to come to the front lines and see for himself, not what the news is telling him, what's really happening here and wherever he sends them. Now let me pause there for a second. I watched a video yesterday from a guy named Luke Beasley, I think his name is. He does commentary on different things that, like Trump usually, does and says, and his group of cronies. And in that video, he played a clip of this woman from Fox News that came to Minneapolis in hopes to get a juicy story of Minneapolis people causing a ruckus in the street, causing riots and all that. Well, she was very disappointed because when she came upon a group of people, they were very peaceful, very peaceful. And she confronted one woman, or maybe the woman confronted her. I don't know how that whole thing happened. It kind of happened in the middle of it, the video showed, where this woman was asking, this reporter was asking the Minnesotan, "Why are you wearing a mask?" And the woman says, "What do you care why I'm wearing a mask? It's cold. It's Minnesota. It's January. What do you think? My nose is cold." She says, "Why aren't you wearing a mask?" So then this Minnesotan was yelling back at the reporter, not getting in her face. She kept her distance from this woman. Wasn't throwing things at her. She didn't have a big group of people around her. All the other people were far away from her, facing the other way, not even paying attention to what was going on. And she was the Minnesotan was yelling at the reporter, "Shame, shame, shame." So then the reporter says, "Why are you even out here on a weekday? Don't you have a job?" Excuse me? Is this story about the woman? Or are you just trying to instigate a fight between her? I was going to say interrogate, but that's not the right word. I'm sure the word will come to me. So she went back to her nice little studio in New York or wherever they're located and said she was kind of disappointed that there wasn't a bigger fuss going on. She even mentioned Antifa, like that had anything to do with anything. Guess what, lady? Welcome to Minnesota Nice. We recently had the anniversary of what happened at the Capitol building. He said in that speech, "I'll be right there with you marching down Pennsylvania Avenue to take back the election." Watch the video. Where was he when his cronies were vandalizing that building? Sitting safely in his office, far away from the chaos, watching it all go down on TV. For those of you who voted him back in, do you still support what he's doing, what he's saying, and how he's acting? He's acting like a moron. Go watch Luke Beasley. I've been wrestling with a topic for my next video. I now know what I want it to be about. I know I'm not the first one to discuss this and likely won't be the last. However, this is my way of protesting without putting myself in harm's way. I'm disgusted. I am absolutely disgusted about what's going on with these people. And I'm talking about the ones that are being sent here from Chicago and Kansas City and all over, that have already gone to these other cities that didn't want them either. Wasn't this country founded by people from other countries, immigrants? To quote Hamilton, "Immigrants, we get the job done." Thank you, Lin-Manuel Miranda. Are we not all the products of immigrants that came from other countries? We may have been born here in America and call ourselves American, but the blood flowing through our veins is not 100% American. As a matter of fact, I'm Irish, English, French, and German. Does that mean that ICE can come and take me away because my blood is not 100% American? If that's the case, why don't they take each other to jail? Because I'm sure that their ancestors also came from foreign countries. Now, I haven't done my research on this, but I am willing to bet that other countries do not have this same problem. They have immigrants in their countries as well. And Carpathia seems to love blaming the Democrats and blaming Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for letting all these immigrants in. Immigrants have been coming to this country for years and years and decades. So don't sit there and blame the previous president for allowing these people to come into this country. And please, let's not even discuss the fact that Carpathia is trying to get rid of all these immigrants because they're all criminals. No, they're not. Not all of them are. That's like saying all police are bad because of what happened to George Floyd. That's like saying all Muslims are bad because of 9/11 and the King's Cross. We talk about 9/11. We don't talk about what they did in other countries like Spain and King's Cross in England after 9/11. Maybe it wasn't on the same scale. But are you kidding me? And let's look at our own people. Oh yeah, these people are bringing in drugs from Mexico. These people are committing crimes like burglaries and rapes and murders. Let's talk about gangs, shall we? That are made up of American kids. Are they not doing the same thing? How about in recent years where we were afraid to even stop at a gas station for fear that we would be hijacked with our cars at gunpoint by children? Some people, like a video that I saw months ago from a woman that was from their Ring doorbell, where they were getting ready to leave their house in the dark of night, and you see a car off in the distance on the street, and you see kids coming at them with a gun, and they're getting in the car in their driveway, and they start screaming because they see the gun. The dad or the husband comes running out of the house and scares the kids off. Those were Americans, okay? Americans are committing the same crimes that Carpathia seems to think that only these immigrants are committing crimes, so they need to get out of our country. I want to talk about crimes. I have not really been following very closely the whole Maduro thing from Venezuela. We have no proof, absolutely none, that says that those boats off of the coast of Venezuela, not even in America, okay? We have no proof that they had drugs on them. As a matter of fact, I wrote about that on my Facebook page too. No proof. And yet they were shooting at the boats and killing hundreds of people. Give me just a second here to find it. It's down a ways here. It's this one. No, it's not that one. Maybe the one that I did at the beginning of the year. Yeah, here it is. So at the beginning of the year, this is what I wrote on my Facebook page. This year, I made a pact with myself to stay away from the news as much. It's all negative anyway, right? While checking our local weather, that doesn't really count as news in my book, I checked on the latest headlines. I'm really sorry I did. Now, this was 6 days ago. And I'm sure you know why. Yes, it's early in this story, but are you serious? Carpathia has taken it upon himself. For those of you that don't know who I'm referring to, I'm talking about our president, our so-called president. I refuse to use his real name, except in that article. Carpathia has taken it upon himself without the legal backing of Congress to steal the leader of Venezuela and his wife, fly them into the U.S. and have him persecuted on alleged claims of supplying drugs to the U.S. This is the way I'm understanding it, so don't bash me if what I'm reading isn't the same as what you're hearing. Now, it sounds as if he did this to get his hands on their oil to sell it to other countries. What I'm reading, based on our local news website, is that he's going to run that country due to their being rich in oil. In the meantime, the current leader, simply kidnapping him, doesn't remove him from power, sorry. Maybe I'm wrong on that, I don't know. Will likely be found guilty on erroneous charges. As I posted earlier, there's no proof those boats had drugs on them, nor that they were headed to the U.S. And our tax dollars will go to keeping him in our prison system. Are you really okay with that? Are you aware that your tax dollars are going to keep the mastermind of the 93 World Trade Center attacks, Ramzi Youssef, in a high-security prison in Colorado? Don't believe me? Look it up. Okay, Ramzi, I can kind of understand. He admitted to it, and that event happened here. But Maduro? None of my research shows hard proof about those boats. Why isn't Carpathia doing the same thing in Mexico and Colombia, the two countries that supply the most drugs to our country? Okay, Colombia is the number one for distribution or for producing cocaine, and Mexico is the hub. Do your research, people. It just sounds fishy to me that he attacked Venezuela because of drug boats, and now it sounds like he really just wanted their oil. While we're on the subject, while I'm not keeping a close eye on the Russia-Ukraine war, as much as I was at the beginning, it sounds as if Carpathia and Putin only want the minerals that are in the Ukraine. No? Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Why not combat problems in our own country? Problems like human trafficking, homelessness, elder abuse in facilities. These stories aren't breaking news headlines, but they're out there. How about the entitlement of today's youth? For us older folks, schools aren't teaching the basics like reading, writing, and arithmetic anymore. They're teaching kids how to call CPS on their parents. I've had parents tell me this. So what did I read that I was going to talk about next? Today's youth. Yeah, let's talk about that. Another one of Luke Beasley's videos, where it showed Carpathia and Melania taking phone calls from children around Christmas time for the Santa tracker. You can't really hear Melania because the focus is all on Carpathia, of course. Can't stand not having cameras on him. And he's asking the kids where they're from. And one kid says he's from Pennsylvania. Oh, yeah, I love Pennsylvania. We won Pennsylvania twice by a landslide. Do you think that a 10-year-old kid is really going to care? All he cares about is where is Santa and how soon is he going to come to my house? And Carpathia is talking about the states that he won to children at Christmas. Talk about taking the focus off of what the kids really wanted to hear. This is just mind-blowing, people. And this is the person that the majority of the people out there voted into office a little over a year ago. You still support him? Go watch Luke Beasley's videos. They are very entertaining and very, very informative. He's on YouTube too. Honest to goodness, people. It's time we take this country back. It's time we stop allowing, and another Left Behind reference, the GC, the global community that Carpathia has forced into our cities. He may not have started them, but he's forcing them into our cities where there was no problems going on. Yeah, there's crime going on in the cities. It's not always the immigrants. And a lot of these people that the ICE people are taking in are U.S. citizens. That's what angers me the most. They think just because the person looks like they're from Mexico, oh, they must be here illegally, so let's attack them and let's throw them down on the ground and arrest them and throw them in jail. Sea-Dog has a co-worker at one of the stores he works at. He works at 2 different locations, who called him yesterday, or I guess his boss called him, and said that this kid is Hispanic and he was closing the store last night. Well, in the city that this happened in, which is just outside of Minneapolis, ICE agents had been located. And this kid was really afraid to close the store by himself because he has had run-ins with ICE outside his house. Now, I asked Sea-Dog if this kid was a U.S. citizen and if he had documentation, and he said he didn't know. Well, I presume since he was hired that he is a U.S. citizen and he has legal documentation to be here. Thankfully, nothing happened. But this is what I'm talking about. This almost reminds me, not even almost, this does remind me of what happened in China once COVID started. Now, I've made reference to a video that I watched in February of 2020 to find out, February or March, to find out the truth about what was going on. Not what the news media was hyping up and trying to use scare tactics to all of us. And in this video by a YouTuber group, or a YouTube group, called Four Corners, F-O-U-R, Corners. And it talks about what was really happening in Wuhan once the pandemic, at the time, epidemic started. And this was by people, everyday people. It wasn't by any really news source. And the news source that was part of this video was from Australia. But it wasn't a documentary, really. I mean, in a way it kind of was, but it wasn't like directed or anything like that. It was like people like me that were doing YouTube videos. And one guy lived across the street from this high-rise. And he was from Australia. And his wife, I think, may have been from China. And they were there for the Chinese New Year, because that's when it all happened. And if you remember, at the beginning, they were saying, oh yeah, this is coming because people were eating infected bat meat, or it was cooked up in a lab by the Chinese. Absolutely not true on both counts, according to this video that I saw. The video from this Australian gentleman, from his window in his apartment that he was staying in, was showing the Chinese dragging people out of their homes after they took the temperatures of these people, and even if they just had a slight temperature, they forced them into quarantine. Yeah. They were literally dragging these people out of their homes and throwing them in the back of a truck, kind of like a paddy wagon, I guess you would call it here. The people that were dragging them out were in full mop suits. And then they'd go behind them And even though some people were still in the buildings, high-rise buildings, okay? I mean, we're talking 20, 30 stories at least. And this gentleman was also filming this woman standing out on her balcony crying for help. She couldn't get out of the building. You want to know why? Because this gentleman was also filming the Chinese welding and chaining the doors shut to these apartment buildings to keep people from leaving or entering the buildings. That's how militant they went in China. That's kind of what's going on here. As a matter of fact, one of my coworkers messaged me last night and she said, oh yeah, I was really sad to hear about what happened at Target in another city outside of Minneapolis. I hadn't heard about this, so I watched the video. 2 Mexican workers with, I can't even tell you, at least a dozen or more, maybe 20, 24 ICE agents dragging these people, these workers, out of Target and throwing them in the back of their vehicle. And the one guy was seeing the cameras and he was showing his face to the cameras and he says, why are you doing this? I'm a US citizen. And the ICE agents were like, shut up and get in there. Are you serious? This is how we treat our fellow Americans? Like I said, we're all human beings, people. We should not be looked at differently because of a different colored skin. And if you've had run-ins with ICE, or if you know of somebody that's had run-ins with ICE, my sincerest apologies to you. It's time we stand up and take our country back, honestly. And speaking of that, who's Carpathia's wife and where does she come from? Her name is Melania and she comes from Slovenia. Why aren't they taking her into custody? She's an immigrant. What, just because she's married to the president? I know that I'm putting out credible facts here, folks. I'll bet you people like Lin-Manuel Miranda and Fluffy, Gabriel Iglesias, the other stand-up comedian, are shaking in their boots and are afraid to come out of their houses because of all this. Now, Lin-Manuel was born here, but his parents came from Puerto Rico. Now, granted, I think Puerto Rico is part of the U.S., but still. And now Carpathia wants to go to Greenland and take over Greenland because of the minerals they have there. I actually saw a video, which I also posted on my Facebook page. And I'm not going to show it to you because it's probably going to show my name, but I'm going to, okay, hold on here. Okay.
I'd like to talk about him because he spoiled my sleep. Or they do.
These are people from Greenland.
I don't sleep very well because I'm afraid they have no respect for us, for my country, or for our country. So,
what I think is he wants the Greenlandic minerals to pay off the national debt of United States. That's what I think.
Do you think people are really scared in Greenland?
Yeah, I've seen quite few who were concerned.
I dreamed about him last night. Nightmare. That he was coming with the ship. It was awful, that dream. So I'm scared.
What the reasons behind it, we don't get it really. So it's so peaceful and calm here, and he says that Denmark is not protecting Greenland from what, and there's been a collaboration with the USA for many years. So it's not all of the sudden, but it's really aggressive now, and it's getting kind of annoying.
That last guy spoke a lot of truth, don't you think? So I'm going to call you out, Carpathia. Why don't you come here to Minneapolis? Don't send your cronies. Don't listen to what other people are telling you. Why don't you come here? And why are you against Fox News anyway? Aren't they supportive of the Republican Party? I could just go on and on and on about this, but my battery life is starting to die here. What I'd like to ask from all of you at this point is I want you to leave your comments below. And I want you to tell me your thoughts on all of this. Not just about what happened here in Minneapolis or Portland, but what's been going on around this country. He started in Washington, D.C., which surprises me because that's where he is. Then he went to Portland and Kansas, and I think Texas. He went to Texas. But like, they talk about the Border Patrol. In Minneapolis and St. Paul? What the hell do we patrol? Where are our borders? What do we border? We don't border any foreign country. I mean, this is just, why are border patrols in Minneapolis and St. Paul? The closest thing we border is Wisconsin. The next closest is Canada, but that's like, what, 7 hours north of here? Maybe not. Maybe 5 or 6. I don't know. But it's hours away. Are they deporting Canadians? Why are they only concerned about Venezuelans and Mexicans? Seriously, people. So please, leave your comments below. I'm sorry this one was a little bit more heated, but given the climate in the country right now, and especially here in the Twin Cities, I am safe, by the way, for right now. I don't have any plans to go down to Minneapolis. But that doesn't mean they're not going to come out this way. I haven't seen them, but that's because I've been spending most of my time in the apartment. I didn't want to talk about me today. The only thing I'll say about me is that the arm is getting better. And hopefully I'll be back to work soon. But I'm almost afraid to go back to work. And I've also been hearing about fake ICE people trying to arrest people in residential areas. And the people of those residential areas chase them out because they don't have proof that they are from ICE. These are not people from ICE. They just pretend that they are. So be careful out there, everybody. Don't go looking for trouble. If you want to protest, go ahead and protest, but do it carefully, okay? Because I don't want to hear any more about these ICE agents shooting anyone else. And like I said, Jonathan Ross, you're a chicken shit for running. Own up to what you did. Obviously, he knows he's guilty if he's not even communicating with the media. He's running away from his house in Chaska. Be a man. You were Army. Anyway, stay safe out there, everybody. We'll see you on the next one, which will hopefully be a little bit more lighthearted. And we'll talk to you on the next one. Have a sunny day.